Please take your seats. Everybody's very excited to be here, but please take your seats. No. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends, it is my great pleasure and honour to welcome you to this very special event, Healthy Indoor Air, a Global Call to Action. My name is Dr. Bronwyn King. I am the Special Advisor for Clean Air at Burnett Institute from my hometown of Melbourne, Australia. Firstly, I'd like to offer my sincere thanks and gratitude to the Government of Montenegro and to the Government of France for so kindly co-sponsoring this special high-level event today, which has enabled us to meet in this extraordinary venue, United Nations Headquarters, New York. Thank you for your generosity, your time and effort. We truly appreciate your support. Thank you also to Burnett Institute, to the Australian Academy of Science, to Brown University School of Public Health and AusLove Project for a terrific collaboration in convening this event, alongside 60 partnering organisations. These include universities, health bodies, expert groups, community groups, advocacy organisations, aligned businesses and more. Our sincere thanks also to Balvi and Vitalik Buterin for supporting us on this journey every step of the way. This room is buzzing. We've been waiting a long time. The moment has arrived for indoor air quality to take its rightful place here at United Nations Headquarters at the heart of global priorities. It's the first time the global indoor air community has convened here, united in one goal to drive action globally to make indoor air safe and healthy. I'd like to extend a warm and wonderful welcome to you all here today. Sitting amongst us are academics, advocates, experts, entrepreneurs, parents, policymakers, health champions, thought leaders, and other key contributors. All have drive and commitment to create better, healthier days ahead. Equally important are our friends and colleagues joining remotely. So a warm welcome to you too, and if I may, a special cheers to my fellow Australians for getting up at 5 a.m. to watch, continuing the fine Australian tradition of participating in global events whilst wearing pyjamas. People consume air in indoor environments 90% of the time. We consume our air indoors. Yet surprisingly, these spaces, schools, hospitals, workplaces and transport, are not guaranteed to have clean indoor air. In fact, it's quite often the opposite. Frequently, indoor air is found to be of poor quality, filled with hazards like pathogens, all the bugs in the air, pollutants like wildfire smoke or vehicle emissions, or plastics. The average person inhales tens of thousands of microplastics every day. All these hazards are detrimental to health. None of them belong in the air that we breathe into our bodies. And the great news is practical solutions already exist. Attention to indoor air quality is a gap in our public health frameworks. We need to close that gap. It seems inevitable that we will at some point, but collectively we must accelerate the speed of change. Healthy indoor air will benefit everyone. The young with bodies still growing, the elderly who are frail, those with lung disease like asthma, those with heart disease, diabetes, cancer, those who are immunocompromised, or those who live with a range of other chronic illnesses, those who live in low and middle income countries, and those who live in the most fortunate of circumstances. No one can escape the impact of poor indoor air quality. So when we fix it, everybody wins. I'm delighted to present to you a gold star lineup of VIP speakers to inspire and energise us all with their collective wisdom and grit. It's now my great pleasure to introduce and hand over to my brilliant co-convener, Dr. Georgia Lagoudis from Brown University School of Public Health, who will introduce our first panel. Georgia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. King. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you today. I'm a senior fellow and faculty at the Brown University School of Health and the Brown Pandemic Center, where I lead the Clean Indoor Air Initiative. We are delighted, together with Bronwyn, to help spearhead a global movement together with all of you and help us breathe a little bit easier and make indoor air spaces healthy and safe. And it is my pleasure and delight to introduce the first of our distinguished speakers today. I would like to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Ervin Ibrahimovic, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Montenegro.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to welcome you to this high-level side event, Healthy Indoor Air, a global call to action. On behalf of the government of Montenegro, I extend gratitude to United Nations, to friends proudly co-sponsoring this event alongside Montenegro, and to all international partners who have joined us in advancing this vital agenda. Let me remind you that in July, 3 years ago, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring access to a clean, healthy environment as a universal human right. For Montenegro, the right to healthy environment is not an abstract principle. It is the constitutional value and commitment we live by. From the very first article of our Constitution, Montenegro is declared an ecological state. Through our national initiative to improve indoor air quality, we especially pay attention to indoor quality in schools. We are working to protect the health of our children, empower our education system, and to contribute to global public health and climate resilience. Children spend most of their day in classrooms. Ensuring that these spaces are safe, clean, and supportive of learning is one of the most meaningful investments on society can make. This is why education stands at the center of our approach and why this initiative resonates for beyond national border. This gathering is an opportunity to transform awareness into action by uniting science, education, health, and policy. We can ensure that clean indoor air becomes a universal standard, not a privilege. Today, we are here to sign the Global Pledge for Healthy Indoor Air. In doing so, Montenegrin partners are igniting a global movement, one that we hope will soon unite governments, institutions, and communities around a common goal: clean air for every child, in every classroom. It's now my honor to invite my esteemed colleague, Her Excellency Professor Dr. Angela Jakšić-Stojanović, Minister of Education, Science and Innovation of Montenegro, to deliver the keynote remarks and present the essence of our national initiative. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, esteemed guests, dear representatives of academic and research community, dear representatives of civil society, I would like to thank to the Deputy Prime Minister, my dear friend, Mr. Ervin Ibrahimovic, for his introduction and for underlining the importance of this initiative for Montenegro. Let me begin with something simple but yet very powerful. In Montenegro, as in every country, children spend more than half of their waking hours inside school buildings. The quality of air in these classrooms silently determines their health, their capacity to learn, and even their future opportunities. This is why for Montenegro, improving indoor air quality in schools is not a secondary concern. It is a fundamental responsibility, a matter of safeguarding the next generation. And today, with great pride, we are announcing the Montenegrin Initiative for Clean Indoor Air. This is for us more than just a project. It is a national commitment, a statement that clean air for every child in every classroom is a right, not a privilege. This understanding guided the work of the Ministry of Education, Science and Innovation in Montenegro. We decided to begin where the challenge is greatest, in Pljevlja, a city in the north part of Montenegro, the municipality with the heaviest burden of outdoor pollution in Montenegro. Over the past months, we conducted an analysis of every school building in Pljevlja. Classrooms, ventilation systems, windows, heating, all of that was assessed. For the first time, we created a comprehensive database that captures the condition of learning environments and air quality inside them. From this database, we are building a roadmap. It includes the installation of modern monitoring and filtration devices, step-by-step upgrades to school infrastructure, and integration of air quality management into national education reform. They are designed to scale up, reaching every municipality so that the air of our children breathed in schools reflects our constitutional duty to be an ecological country. Our ambition is not only to meet standards, but to set them, to show leadership in creating healthier environments for learning and living. By monitoring temperature, humidity, ventilation, and lighting in our schools, we are building the first system of its kind in the region. And let me emphasize, Montenegro will be the first nation to go beyond measuring indoor air in schools. We will be improving it. This means that the ecological principle enshrined in our constitution is not a mere declaration, but a living commitment to lead the transition towards healthier classrooms, healthier buildings, and more resilient communities. As the Minister of Education, Science and Innovation, I want to underline that science and innovations are central to this mission. We are collaborating with universities, international academies, and research institutes to test technologies, collect data, and to train educators. The knowledge generated in Montenegrin schools will not stay within our borders. It will feed into the global evidence base, helping all the countries all around the world to design smarter policies for healthier indoor environments. Today, with the launch and signing of the Global Pledge for Healthy Indoor Air, Montenegro is proud to stand at the forefront, both sharing its own experience and learning from others, from all of you. For us, this pledge is not a formality or a symbolic gesture. It is a binding commitment, a framework that unites three fundamental rights: the right to education, the right to health, and the right to a clean environment. But this is not a commitment Montenegro can carry alone. We call on all partners, governments, international institutions, and civil society to join us in making this pledge a reality. Together, we can ensure that every child, everywhere, in all parts of the world, can learn in classroom filled not with polluted air, but with the promise of a healthier future. Let us make this legacy of our work together, that future generations remember 2025 as the year when countries came together to declare and to deliver that clean indoor air is a right for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Montenegro for your leadership, and we are all inspired by your actions. I'm now delighted to introduce our second country co-sponsor and also a fearless leader in promoting the health of citizens. Representing France, I invite Her Excellency Anne-Claire Amprou, the Ambassador for Global Health of France.
Excellencies, Deputy Prime Minister of Montenegro, ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be with you today for this first high-level side event dedicated to indoor air quality. And let me begin by warmly thanking the organizer of this initiative as well as the partners involved in this effort. And France is very proud to co-sponsor this event alongside Montenegro. Indoor air pollution is a major global challenge which affects more than 2 billion people, mainly in low and middle income countries, and is responsible for over 3 million premature deaths each year. These figures are alarming and call for a collective, coordinated, and ambitious response. As the COVID-19 pandemic tragically reminded us, indoor air quality is a key determinant of public health. The recognition of airborne transmission of the virus highlighted the urgency of acting on enclosed environments. This is why France called for strengthened international collaboration on this issue. We must share our knowledge about risk and exposure to indoor pollutants and aim to harmonize standards and monitoring requirements for indoor air quality. It is also essential to mobilize resources and pool expertise so that everyone, everywhere in the world, can breathe clean air inside their home, school, workplace, or healthcare settings. France has taken concrete steps in this direction and has made indoor air quality a priority for environmental and public health. Since 2023, mandatory monitoring for indoor air quality in nurseries and schools in France has been reinforced. Since 2024, France has established an observatory for indoor environment quality, which aims to collect, produce, and share data and knowledge on enclosed spaces for all stakeholders, scientific community, public authorities, local governments, professionals, and citizens. The combined effects of outdoor and indoor air pollution are associated with 6.7 million premature deaths annually worldwide. This figure, again, justifies an urgent global mobilization. In this regard, I commend the ambition shared by over 100 countries that committed during the second WHO Global Conference on Air Pollution and Health held in Colombia last March. Today's event marks an important milestone. It offers a unique platform to launch the Global Indoor Air Quality Pledge, a strong symbolic commitment. I'm honored to sign this pledge on behalf of France and to affirm our determination to actively contribute to this global momentum. We can build a healthier, more equitable, and more resilient future. And we need indoor air quality. I thank you.
Thank you very much, France, for your inspiring remarks and leadership again on this topic. Next, I would like to invite Miss Caroline Frederickson, who serves at the International Labor Organization as the Director of Research and Publications.
Well, thank you so much, and good afternoon to our distinguished guests, the panelists, and attendees. It is really an honor to join you today. I'd really like to thank the co-sponsors, France and Montenegro, as well as the partnering organizations for convening this extremely important event. Today, I will highlight the role of the International Labor Organization in promoting healthy indoor air as part of our broader mandate to ensure safe and healthy working environments grounded in international labor standards. In 2022, the ILO made history by recognizing a safe and healthy working environment as a fundamental principle and right at work. This placed safety and health alongside freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining, the elimination of all forms of forced or compulsory labor, the effective abolition of child labor, and the elimination of discrimination in respect of employment and occupation. In other words, every worker, everywhere, now has the recognized right to safety and health at work. One crucial yet overlooked component of a safe and healthy workplace is the air we breathe indoors. Ensuring healthy indoor air is central to fulfilling this right and safeguarding workers' health, well-being, and productivity. From an OSH perspective, indoor air quality is not only a matter of comfort, but a fundamental aspect of risk prevention. Poor ventilation, exposure to biological agents, volatile organic compounds, dust, or other airborne contaminants can lead to respiratory illnesses, allergies, fatigue, and reduced cognitive performance, ultimately increasing the risk of accidents and absenteeism. Considering that most people spend 80 to 90% of their time indoors, whether at work, in schools, or at home, poor indoor air can have a significant impact on health and productivity. The ILO has adopted international labor standards that provide a framework for action in relation to prevention and protection against hazards related to indoor pollution. The Occupational Safety and Health Convention in 1981, number 155, and the Promotional Framework for Occupational Safety and Health Convention, adopted in 2006, number 187, reflect the relevant principles, roles, and responsibilities for ensuring a safe and healthy working environment, both at the national and workplace level. The Working Environment Convention, adopted in 1977, and its recommendation provide guidance on managing hazards like airborne pollutants, noise, and vibration. The Chemicals Convention in 1990 addresses chemical safety. And most recently, in June of 2025, the International Labor Conference adopted a new convention, Biological Hazards in the Working Environment Convention, and an accompanying recommendation, Biological Hazards in the Working Environment Recommendation, extending protection against risks from biological hazards, including those transmitted through indoor air. Together, these standards guide governments and employers in consultation with workers and their representatives to identify, assess, and manage risks, ensuring that workplaces are safe and healthy. In conclusion, healthy indoor air is not a luxury. It is a fundamental aspect of safe and decent work. It directly affects workers' health, well-being, and productivity, and is essential for fulfilling the ILO's mandate to protect every worker's right to a safe and healthy working environment. The ILO remains committed to working with governments, employers, workers, and partners across the multilateral system to promote safe and healthy working environments for all. Through our standard-setting work, technical guidance, and initiatives on occupational safety and health, we aim to create workplaces that are safer, fairer, and more health-promoting. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to our continued collaboration in advancing safe and healthy working environments.
Thank you, Ms. Fredrickson, for highlighting the importance of workplace safety as a role in this. Finally, for this high-level panel, I would like to welcome Mr. Jose Luis Castro at the World Health Organization, serving as Director General, Special Envoy for Chronic Respiratory Diseases.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and dear friends. On behalf of the World Health Organization, I would like to thank the governments of France and Montenegro for organizing this very important meeting on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. The quality of the air that we breathe should never determine the length of our lives. For too long, indoor air has been the invisible crisis of our time. We spend nearly 90% of our lives indoors, yet unsafe air continues to trigger asthma in children, worsen chronic respiratory diseases, and increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and cancer. As the WHO Special Envoy for Chronic Respiratory Diseases, I see these consequences daily. COPD alone kills over 3 million people each year. Indoor air pollution, from cooking stoves to secondhand smoke, poor ventilation, or industrial sources, amplifies the suffering of millions, especially the most vulnerable, children, older adults, and families in low-resource settings. This is not only a health crisis, it is also an economic crisis. Poor air quality drains productivity, drives health costs, and weakens our resilience to pandemics. The lesson is clear. Protect indoor air is as urgent as ensuring clean water or safe food. The solutions are within reach. We can implement the WHO clean air guidelines, set ambitious global indoor air quality standards, scale affordable technologies from cleaner cookstoves to smart ventilation, integrate indoor air into climate, energy, and urban planning, and strengthen monitoring so invisible threats are measured and addressed. But science alone is not enough. We also need political will. The great public health victories of the past, from the eradication of smallpox to the progress against HIV/AIDS, all began when governments and societies decided that inaction was no longer acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, today we must decide the same for indoor air. Cleaner air, resilient cities, and low-carbon health systems are not separate from climate action. They are health actions measured in the breath of our children and our parents. So let us leave this room not just with ideas, but with commitments. Commitments to governments, to private sector, and civil society, that everyone, everywhere deserves safe air to breathe indoors as well as out. To protect every breath is to protect life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Castro, and thank you for all to this inspiring remarks, commitment to action, and recognition at the highest level of such a priority of this topic.
Thank you to panel number one, and I'm very pleased to say it's now time for the family photo, which is one of the most important things about this event. So I'd like to warmly invite every speaker today to please come up and stand behind all the speakers here. A few people can sit on the empty seats there, but if you're speaking today, please come up and we'll quickly take the family photo. No, just leave it. Yeah. Just come straight up. Just come straight up. Yeah. Perfect. Yep, that's great. Yep, come forward. That's great. Okay. Wonderful. We're in the hands. We have one photographer who's managed to get in the room. That's it. We're just waiting. The photographer's here. Just wait. Here she is.
Will you count us off? So before panel one departs, if everyone else can take their seat, but panel one, please stay here. We have a special moment before the first panel departs. I would like to invite our two country representatives, His Excellency Mr. Ibrahimovic, representative from Montenegro, and Her Excellency Ms. Amprou, representative of France, to sign the Global Pledge for Healthy Indoor Air and officially launch the pledge. This Global Pledge represents the first international effort to collaborate on advancing indoor air quality and the first declaration of clean indoor air as a fundamental human right. So please, we invite you to sign the pledge. And we can see from the pledge we had so many supporting organizations, we could barely fit all of the logos on the one document. What a landmark moment. We thank France and Montenegro for your leadership on this. And to all, many will reference the Global Pledge for Healthy Indoor Air during the event today, and we will invite all signatories to sign towards the end of the event with a ceremonial signing ceremony. So we are delighted to have this landmark moment together. Thank you all for panel one. You may take your seats, and we invite panel two to join us.
A warm welcome to our second panel. It's now my great pleasure to invite remarks from Professor Lydia Morovska, who is the head of the International Laboratory for Air Quality and Health and Centre Director at the Australian Research Council Training Centre for Advanced Building Systems Against Airborne Infection Transmission, otherwise known as THRIVE, from Queensland University of Technology. Lydia, the floor is yours. It's this one down here. The grey button. On the other side. To the right.
Colleagues and friends, this year marks exactly 70 years since the first ambient air pollution legislation was enacted in the US and research funding established. Building on this, 8 years later, the Clean Air Act of 1963 was first federal legislation to control air quality. Now, most countries have legally binding ambient air quality regulations. It wasn't a quick process, and it doesn't mean that air is clean everywhere below the WHO air quality guidelines. However, thanks to these regulations, the air we breathe outside is getting cleaner. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the quality of air we breathe indoors. It's almost if time has stopped and society's understanding of the impact on indoor air pollution is as low as it was decades ago. No country has yet legislated indoor air quality performance standards. This is monitoring air quality in real time right here in this room to protect us here now. Last year, under my leadership, a scientific consensus paper was published in journal Science, offering a blueprint for starting the process. What to monitor, how to do it using existing technologies, and how to set standard values. And the standards can already be met by existing buildings. I'm proud to announce that thanks to Balbi's philanthropic support and contribution from my university, Queensland University of Technology, we are on the cusp of proving that this is possible. The path to clean indoor air could follow a similar path to that of ambient air, starting with monitoring, then moving to reporting standard, and finally legislating indoor air quality in all public buildings. Any other route, such as voluntary monitoring or mere incentives, will only delay the process and increase social injustice. Clean air is not a privilege, but a right, as emphasized at the WHO Global Conference on Air Quality and Health held in March. Clean air is a universal human right, part of the broader right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment as per the 2022 United Nations General Assembly resolution. Therefore, it is the responsibility of governments to legislate on indoor air and the measures necessary to achieve it: monitoring, controlling emissions at source, and reducing human exposure to air pollutants. Society must be aware of its right to clean indoor air, but it is not an individual responsibility. We must demand that governments fulfill their duty. I sincerely hope that this meeting will serve as a catalyst for action towards clean indoor air and will inspire countries to embark on this path. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Morawska, and thank you for agreeing to accept this invitation and fly halfway around the world to join us here today. We're thrilled that you could be here. It's now my delight to introduce Professor Joseph Allen, who is the Director of the Healthy Buildings Program at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Joseph, over to you.
Take a deep breath with me. Distinguished guests, friends, depending on how this building is operating, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5% of the air you just breathed came out of the lungs of everyone else in this room. Is the indoor air clean? Is it being monitored? Who is responsible for our health indoors? I have been a forensic investigator of sick buildings for 20 years, and I've studied the health of people in buildings all over the world. I get calls every single week. A cancer cluster in an office building, a factory where workers fell ill, a disease outbreak in a hospital, schools with toxic chemicals, a child whose asthma flares at home. I want to share 3 truths I've learned, and I share them often. 1, buildings can make us sick or keep us well. 2, today's ventilation and filtration standards are set for bare minimums, not health. 3, the person who manages your building can have a bigger impact on your health than your doctor. I'm certain you're aware that 4 million people die each year from outdoor air pollution. But are you aware that because outdoor air penetrates into our buildings and we take 9 out of breaths indoors, that the majority of outdoor air pollution we breathe happens indoors? Outdoor air pollution is an indoor air pollution problem. Indoor air doesn't just reach our lungs and heart, it affects our brain health. Evidence links pollution to poor mental health, anxiety, depression, and even suicide ideation. It's also linked with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And research from my team at Harvard shows links between indoor air quality and cognitive function. Indoor air impacts how we process information and make decisions, how we perform under stress, how we perform on math tests and creativity tests, even how well you absorb what's being said right now. Can we make buildings healthy? Yes, of course we can. In rural Uganda, our research showed that switching from kerosene to clean lighting cut indoor air pollution by up to 91%. Breathing symptoms fell from 57% to 36% due to that intervention. Low cost. A world away and just a few blocks from here, I advised JP Morgan Chase's new global headquarters at 270 Park Avenue, designed with a health-first mindset, ventilation well above minimums, and real-time monitoring that verifies performance. An all-electric tower supported by renewable energy, advancing sustainability for the city while improving health for the people inside, setting new standards for what a healthy building should be. From rural Uganda to New York City and everywhere in between, this can be done. Here are 3 imperatives. We must recognize indoor health is fundamental to human health. We must recommit to ventilation and filtration, not just as a technical standard for minimally acceptable conditions, but as a cornerstone of public health. We must require indoor air quality monitoring because, as the business maxim goes, what gets measured gets managed. Our health is inextricably linked to the health of our buildings. Buildings are one of the most powerful tools we have to improve the human condition. I ask that you join us in advancing a new healthy buildings era for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. We're all in. You're very convincing. So I couldn't think of anyone who would disagree. It's so well put, and buildings with a health-first mindset is a building that we all want to become the norm. It's now my delight to introduce Professor Bettina Boric, who is the CEO of the World Federation of Public Health Associations. Bettina.
Friends, colleagues, excellencies, thank you for having me. In old Indo-European belief systems, there are 4 elements: fire, earth, water, and air. They are considered to be the fundamental basis of all matter. We in health, for us in health, especially in public health, water, earth, and air are essential for human well-being. Air is a sign of life. The dying breath is the end of life. And as long as we inhale and exhale, we are still alive. Now the fundamental element, air, is no longer in good quality. The outside air, as we have heard and as we all know, is the cause of over 8 million deaths per year worldwide, making it the 2nd leading cause of death in the world. Now, people usually feel safe at home. However, as we know and as we have just heard, if it comes to air quality, it's an erroneous belief. But this belief is deeply rooted among us and also among the medical community and the public health people. As we know, it's estimated that we human beings, unfortunately, like today, are approximately 90% of our time indoors. And the indoor pollution in some places, as we heard, is much worse than the ambient air. And the list of indoor pollutants is endless, and our specialists here can tell us what is there. And as our lifestyle changes, this list is even increasing. So what to do? Health is a political choice, we say. Indoor air quality is a typical transversal public health issue. First, we need the specialists to measure, to give the data, to do the benchmarking, the norms, and the science. And second comes advocacy for best possible indoor air quality that ought always to be linked to the fight for good outdoors air quality. Climate change will deteriorate both anyway. So I think it's time to advocate for a holistic approach, working together across specialists, producers, policymakers, and us, the people, our wishes. Because the air we breathe is life, and it's a fundamental issue for global public health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bettina. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Jagat Narula, who is the president of the World Heart Federation. Jagat.
Thank you, Dr. King. Your Excellencies, distinguished friends and colleagues. Indoor air quality is the least visible, yet one of the most consequential determinants of the human health. We often focus on the outdoor pollution, as my colleague just said, the smog we can see, but the air inside our homes, schools, workplaces, and hospitals may be just as harmful, and too often it goes unnoticed. As president of the World Heart Federation, I am compelled to highlight the links between the polluted indoor air and the growing burden of the cardiovascular disease worldwide. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death globally, claiming more than 20 million lives each year, and household air pollution is a major risk factor. The human cost is staggering. In 2019, household air pollution contributed to 3.2 million deaths, more than half of which were due to cardiovascular disease. While progress has been made over the past 2 decades, low and middle income countries continue to bear the heaviest burden, constrained by limited access to electricity or gas for cooking. The World Heart Federation's World Heart Report 2024 on air pollution underscores this reality. World Health Organization's estimates that more than 2 billion people worldwide still rely on polluting fuels such as wood, coal, crop waste, animal dung, or charcoal, typically burned in inefficient stoves. Such exposures contribute not only to respiratory diseases, but also to cardiovascular conditions, pediatric illnesses, and maternal health complications. The good news is that we have solutions. Countries like China, India, and Indonesia have demonstrated that policy and investment can accelerate the transition to cleaner cooking and heating. WHO guidelines give us a clear roadmap: expand access to clean fuels and technologies, improve ventilation and building standards, and integrate indoor air quality into national health and urban planning agenda. While the long-term objective should be complete transition away from the non-renewable fuels, LPG can serve as a pragmatic and scalable transitional solution. Where access to clean fuels is still limited, more advanced combustion cook stoves that meet WHO emission targets should be prioritized. Now, as my colleague just gave few examples of his own research, let me just give you one single example before I give the WHF's recommendations. I have been imaging mummies all across the world to look at the risk factors which have been associated with cardiovascular diseases. We had thought that 4,000 years ago, when the mummies were created, at that time there should not have been any cardiovascular disease because we did not have all this bad food and we lived much better life. However, having done approximately 400 mummies CT scans on them, we have realized that in the Egyptian mummies, which existed about 2,000 to 3,500 years ago, we did see approximately 30% of them had an evidence of large vascular calcification or atherosclerotic disease. Why so? Because they had access to food 3 to 5 times a day. They would eat goat meat, beef, or they had an access to the agriculture from everywhere. Thinking that these were all elites who were all carried in the palanquins, we ended up in Peru looking at some of the Peruvian mummies. And approximately having done 150 mummies there, which are approximately 1,000 years old, we looked at them, thought that these were the vegetarians. Half of them were at least vegetarians. They were going up and down the mountains. They were the farmers, and they lived much better lives. But approximately 24% of them also had an evidence of cardiovascular disease. And when we looked at some of their autopsies that we performed, we found that they had black lungs. Went to the places where they lived. These are the low-ceiling houses that they lived in, and they cooked inside. The evidence has been there all along. We need to convert that into action now. So, to prevent millions of avoidable deaths from cardiovascular and other diseases, the World Heart Federation urges action in the following key areas: adapt and implement WHO air quality guidelines, integrate indoor air quality into national public health agenda, accelerate the transition to the clean household energy, promote healthier buildings and ventilation standards, and showcase best practices and scientific innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jagat. I love the expression, the least visible but most consequential impact on health. I'm going to use that if I may. It's now a delight to welcome Professor Kerry Kinney, who is the President of the International Society for Indoor Air Quality.
All right, thank you, colleagues and friends. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you today. I'm here representing the International Society of Indoor Air Quality and Climate. Established over 30 years ago, ISIAC is an independent scientific organization dedicated to providing the foundation needed to create healthy indoor environments, which we're all talking about today. We, along with the researchers and organizations represented here and elsewhere, champion the science needed to understand how buildings, materials, human activities, and yes, the outdoor environment influence indoor air quality and ultimately our health. When I was thinking about trying to distill down all the great work and insights provided by all my colleagues around the world, it was a rather daunting task. So what I'm going to do is just highlight a few observations with some inputs, of course, from my colleagues. The first is that there really should be no distinction between outdoor air and indoor air. That's slowing progress. Air is either clean or it's not, and just as clean drinking water is a right, so is the right to breathe clean air indoors, and frankly, yes, outdoors too, if you manage to get out there. The next point, indoor air quality is everyone's problem. So emissions from biomass burning, the black lung just mentioned a moment ago, and other potent indoor sources continue to be a devastating problem worldwide. However, even as countries move up the economic ladder with cleaner fuels, fancier buildings, mechanical ventilation, and other advancements, our indoor air problems persist. In the US, for instance, chemicals in our products that we routinely bring into our buildings accumulate in the air, they accumulate in the dust, and guess what? They accumulate in all of us as well with substantial health impacts. So we have essentially swapped one set of problems for another. We need to do better, we need to learn our lessons and move along. The third problem is that innovative solutions do already exist. Certainly not all of them, and I'm speaking as an engineer, so we are very solution-driven, but enough to move beyond just documenting or even measuring, which of course is a very important step, the problems to actually implementing solutions. We need to move science into practice so policymakers, building operators, as well as health professionals and others can leverage the latest findings into effective action. And these solutions do not necessarily need to be particularly fancy, particularly expensive. There are low-cost solutions that we can scale, we can roll out to at-risk communities right now, and we need to do that. Finally, we absolutely need a coordinated international effort because what works in one setting, in one part of the world, does not necessarily work very well in another part of the world. ISIAC and all the other organizations here today are critical for this effort. So in ISIAC last year, for instance, we had conferences in Iceland, we had conferences in India, and our next conference will be in Singapore. And while that's absolutely fantastic, it's not nearly enough. We need to do more collectively. We need to push ourselves to work together across the globe, and very importantly, and this is really important to me, is that we are able to translate what we're finding, our results, to communities so that they can choose their own proven indoor air quality strategies that work for them. We don't choose for them, we can help guide them and give them the information to empower them to find their own solutions. And with that, I'd like to conclude by reiterating that ISIAC enthusiastically supports this global call to action for healthy indoor air, and we look forward to working with all of you and the international community to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kerry. You forgot to mention the great conference in Hawaii last year. Well, don't forget that one.
It was beautiful.
It's my delight to welcome Ms. Alison Cox, who is the Policy and Advocacy Director at the Non-Communicable Disease, or the NCD Alliance. Alison.
Thank you, Bronwyn, and it's a real pleasure to be here at this important launch. Speaking for the NCD Alliance, I'd like to build on the connections between this and the wider NCD agenda, particularly this week, and building on comments already. Not only is outdoor pollution breathed indoor, but the issue doesn't stop indoors. Burning solid fuels is also a major contributor to ambient air pollution and contributing to the wider air pollution burden, which each year kills more than 8 million people and costs the world $6 trillion, or around 5% of global GDP. And with air pollution is now recognised as the leading environmental risk factor for NCDs, countries really must integrate and scale up action to tackle this growing threat. And this week we're approaching the 4th high-level meeting on NCDs and mental health. It's clear that the NCD burden of disease is unacceptable, increasing and inequitable. So the NCD Alliance is welcoming the high-level meeting's political declarations commitments to addressing air pollution, including by promoting less polluting solutions for cooking, heating, electricity generation and transportation, all of which offer significant health co-benefits. However, we also note with concern the political declaration falls short in a key area. It fails to explicitly address fossil fuels, the primary driver of both air pollution and climate change. The fossil fuel industry remains heavily subsidized worldwide to the tune of around $7 trillion, subsidies that should be invested instead in health, sustainable food systems, and a just energy transition. It's also a missed opportunity for commitments to promote national air quality standards and to encourage greater integration of climate concerns in health system strengthening and resilience efforts. So, to build momentum for greater progress, we recommend the following. First, fast-tracking and resourcing national implementation efforts on NCDs, ensuring they integrate action on air pollution. Second, leveraging the 3rd Global Financing Dialogue on NCDs and mental health, which is anticipated in 2026, and the 2027 UN high-level meeting on universal health coverage to secure stronger integrated commitments on air pollution and NCDs and mental health more broadly. Thirdly, advancing monitoring and accountability around air pollution and NCDs by strengthening national mechanisms, updating the WHO's NCD global monitoring framework, and embedding NCD targets into broader development processes. Without action on air pollution, we won't reach the Sustainable Development Goal of 3.4 of reducing by a third mortality from NCDs by 2030, given that the significant proportion of NCD death attributed to air pollution. To move from commitment to impact, WHO must deliver on its mandate to develop and publish best buys for air pollution. And member states must act now to implement clean air policies in line with the WHO roadmap on air pollution to meet its targets of halving deaths caused by air pollution by 2040. It really is time to lead on air pollution and on NCDs, and clean air is an essential investment in health, equity, and in the planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. We're so grateful for you to spend some time with us, especially during such a big week for NCDs. So thank you so much. And that concludes panel 2. So I'd now like to invite panel 2 to take their seats again in the audience, and I'd like to invite all of our panel 3 speakers to come up to the stage. Also, we have heard that there's been some difficulty hearing us, and I'd just like to draw your attention to this earpiece. If anyone does have any difficulty, your earpieces are active and work, and you can turn up the volume through those if you're having any trouble. So switch them over. Switch the nameplate. Yeah. Good. Okay. You're good. You're good for air club. Oh, we just need to get him to advance the slide. Scan that.
We will take a moment for panelists to settle in, and I think we'll have some new updates of titles as our expert team will be working on that. I want to take a moment to address a question that you've all had on your minds today. What is this yellow canary, and what does it represent? I see some of you have already put it on your jacket. You have become, you are joining this movement, but what does it represent? And I'd like to pause here and take a step back in time. How did we arrive here? I'd like to share a story. I came at this work from previously serving in the United States White House as senior advisor for biotechnology when the COVID pandemic unfolded. I watched with dread as parts of our country shut down, deaths spiraled, and there was no end in sight. Time passed and new variants emerged and we huddled in isolation, and I wondered, how are we neglecting a core part of preventing virus spread? We're facing an airborne disease pandemic, and yet we're not talking about cleaning the air. We have a low-cost, passive, effective tool to reduce transmission, and yet we weren't using it. A group of us from different parts of the White House and federal agencies across the United States came together, and we launched a Clean Indoor Air initiative, and we hosted the inaugural White House Summit on Indoor Air Quality, of which a number of you attended and were part of that. And this paved the way for the United States Center for Disease Control to finally declare that COVID was primarily transmitted through the air. Actions from many parts of the US federal government followed, helped bring clean air to buildings, and provide actionable guidance to the American public. I continue to work on this topic today at Brown University, helping advance United States government and states policy, especially focused on schools with clean indoor air. But it's been a hard path, and there are hurdles to help people prioritize or recognize the importance of air quality. What emerged from my early White House work was a coalition of true believers and enthusiasts, people that got it, that cleaning the air indoors was where we spend most of our life is remarkably, almost laughably simple and obvious. And what emerged was a ragtag team of change makers, which we lovingly called Air Club. As my network expanded outside of the United States, I met people from around the world, and there were other change makers and true believers at all corners. I met Bronwyn on a late night or early morning call, one of the other, and one of us was in pajamas. And I met M. Peng from another corner of the United States. And we were kindred spirits, we all got it. And the three of us wanted to launch an effort that everyone could be a part of, Air Club. So, I invite you to join us as Air Club. It is for people who realize that modest effort and small dollars can lead to tremendous impact on health. It's an opportunity, it's just one we haven't yet taken advantage of. And it's not just about people, it's not just for people, it's a movement. This is a global movement that we want to bring to the world stage. So we invite each and every one of you to join Air Club and this global community dedicated to making indoor air healthy. The truth is, I must say, that most of you have been Air Club members for quite a while. It's simply time to make it official. So please look down at the table in front of you if you have not yet. Pick up your yellow canary pin. This yellow canary is the symbol of Air Club. It represents the canary in the coal mine, a marker of health, telling us it's safe to breathe. The canary was the world's first indoor air quality monitor. We've moved forward a long way since then with our technology, but we're still grappling with the same issue. How do we keep the canary alive and healthy with clean indoor air? So that's our challenge, that's your challenge for Air Club. So please join me in adding this pin to your jacket. You're now all members of Air Club. Congratulations. You can take a selfie, #AirClub. As inaugural members, we invite you to help us grow this moment. Let's make healthy indoor air a reality. You didn't know that you would be joining a popular club. So thank you for this. And just to note, we have a website. If you're interested in joining or learning more, please join and help grow the movement. With that, I would like to move to our third panel with a wonderful set of speakers, and first introduce Catherine Walsh, the Director of Planning, Engineering, Sustainability, and Environment at the Boston Public Schools. Catherine.
Thank you, Georgia. Good afternoon, distinguished guests. It is my extreme honor to be here with you all as I represent Boston Public Schools and our leading indoor air quality management program. During the first 2 years of the pandemic, Boston made the courageous decision to modernize its existing manual IAQ testing program by investing in a district-wide comprehensive network of IAQ sensors. We were fortunate to hire SGS Galson, and together we installed 4,400 IAQ sensors, one in every classroom, main office, and nurse's office across the district, as well as 118 rooftop sensors. We are reporting the data from those sensors live on a public online dashboard, and we are using the data to make evidence-based decision-making to improve our school facilities with health and well-being in mind. We've had a number of incredible, unexpected outcomes from that program, besides just trying to build transparency and trust with our community and improve our buildings. In real time, we've been able to improve temperatures and ventilation rates, as well as connect our IAQ sensors to the building management system so that we could have demand control ventilation. We've found issues with HVAC equipment, such as malfunctioning air handling units, closed dampers, or broken vents, and been able to repair those with our investments and our amazing team at Boston. We've been able to educate the community about behaviors that they can take in their classrooms to either improve, or harm the air quality. We've also been able to prioritize HVAC upgrades and IAQ-centered design in our capital projects and our major renovations, so that now we are balancing IAQ with energy efficiency rather than sacrificing IAQ for energy savings. One of the greatest outcomes of this program, though, has been our incredible research partnership with Boston University School of Public Health, led by the amazing Dr. Patricia Fabian and her team of students. With Dr. Fabian's team, we have been able to take the 2 billion data points we collect annually and transform that into research-grade data, going beyond just the daily operational response with that data. We've conducted a number of research experiments. We've created workshops, trainings, communication materials for our staff and our community so that we're improving environmental health literacy. And we've also published a number of research papers that hopefully can benefit the greater community. Through our research, we have found that there is value to districts in investing in real-time monitoring in every school, in every classroom. The reason being there are often discrepancies between schools, and there are even discrepancies between classrooms within the same school. By having real-time data, you can make smart, targeted, strategic investments in your buildings, especially when resources are limited. We have also found that IAQ sensors are critical, but they are not enough. You have to have a dedicated team of experts like I am so fortunate enough to lead in Boston. People who every day are working to make the school buildings for our children and teachers healthier, safer, and more sustainable. With our program, we have been fortunate enough to take advantage of the opportunity and receive numerous sources of funding as well as recognition, including being here today. We have leveraged this data to secure more than $22 million in grants, which we're using to make HVAC upgrades, building envelope improvements, electrical upgrades, new HEPA filters, and again, support our staff and community. So I'll end in saying that we are here as a collective. We tried to just do the right thing in Boston, and it's led us here as part of a global network. And I hope that Boston continues to share its story, be honest and transparent with our lessons learned, our pitfalls, and also learn from other school districts. There are many other great school districts that are now doing this work, and it's a privilege to be part of that network with schools. So thank you.
Catherine, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a leader and such an inspiring story. It means so much to see this truly be implemented in practice and sharing with the world. So thank you, Catherine. Next, it's my pleasure to invite remarks from Tracy Hannigan, who is the healthcare lead of the ASHRAE Epidemic Task Force and a fellow at ASHRAE. Tracy.
Thank you, Georgia. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, it's really an honor to be here today to talk with you. And I'd like to begin with a question that I was once asked. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? It's a question that causes inspiration and creates vision, because poor indoor air quality touches us all. It touches our hormones, it touches our cells, and it affects our long-term health. Recently, my daughter was preparing to run in a cross-country race, and I live in the Pacific Northwest, and we were surrounded by wildfire smoke. And so like many families, pulled out our phone and started checking the outdoor air quality readings. And we were trying to predict if they were going to cancel the meet or if it was safe for her to run. And this information was really helpful, and we decided to let her compete. But it occurred to me, why don't we have that same kind of monitoring for the indoor air we breathe, where we spend so much of our time? This monitoring does exist. You just pointed that out. But more often, it's not widespread. And without it, we are blind to imperceived health threats. A coworker once brought a radon detector in, and I discovered that my own home had high levels of radon. And radon causes about 3 to 15% of lung cancer deaths worldwide. Yet a simple fan reduced my family's risk dramatically. And IAQ monitoring could also reveal increased levels of formaldehyde, often formed by citrus-based products containing limonene. And a lot of people don't know that limonene is released in the air from citrus-scented products, and it reacts in the air and it creates formaldehyde. And this is a health hazard. But once people learn this, they start looking at their shampoo labels and their cleaning product labels, and they make smarter, healthier decisions. So knowledge really empowers action. ASHRAE supports an increase in indoor air quality monitoring for early detection and timely intervention. We're an international society of heating, refrigerating, and air conditioning professionals, and we are dedicated to improving human well-being and the built environment. ASHRAE is joining in the International Well Building Institute's Global Commission on Healthy Indoor Air, recognizing that indoor air quality is a public health cornerstone. ASHRAE develops trusted standards that form a baseline for design and operation of facilities. ASHRAE standards 62.1, 62.2, and 170 are ventilation baselines for commercial, residential, and healthcare facilities. ASHRAE Standard 241, Control of Infectious Aerosols, is the world's first standard defining equivalent clean airflow to reduce infectious disease. And these resources are free to view on our website at ashrae.org/preview standards. Our Washington, D.C. office partners with organizations working to influence policy and legislation decisions on indoor air quality. ASHRAE has engaged in the support of numerous bills, and we are eager to help you and others to do more. For too long, indoor air quality was compromised for energy efficiency, but now we have the tools to do both. Buildings are for people. Let us get on then with our important work, and together, we will not fail. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, and I appreciate the effort of ASHRAE, especially in bringing together engineers and public health experts. It is an unenviable position to be able to bring such a diverse community to develop what should be standards for the building. So thank you for that leadership. Next, it is my honor to introduce Sotirios Papathanasiou, who is the founder and lead author of the Global Open Air Quality Standards. Sotirios.
Thank you, Georgia. Your Excellencies, colleagues, friends, it's a profound honor to be here with you today. I would like to ask everyone in this room, but also people that are watching us, to take a moment and take a deep breath in. And now let's exhale. Air is the most fundamental necessity. We depend on it every single moment of every day, yet we often take its quality for granted. We have even convinced ourselves that we are safe from air pollution when we are indoors, silent as if by a roof, and we are protected from the rain. But this belief is dangerous misconception. For decades, we have underestimated the critical importance of clean indoor air, even though we spend the vast majority of our times inside homes, offices, schools, and healthcare facilities. It is precisely in these spaces that our exposure to pollutants and pathogens is often at its highest. We have been grappling with challenges for a long time, leading to repeated revisions of ventilation standards in an effort to control nowadays airborne diseases. We must change our thinking. The value of indoor quality must be placed above the cost of our HVAC systems, or even driven for carbon neutral buildings. We cannot achieve carbon neutrality by depriving occupants of clean, fresh air. Instead, we can embrace renewable energy and smart air quality monitoring solutions that provide precise data on pollutant concentrations. These technologies can help us reduce energy consumption while simultaneously ensuring a healthier environment. Interestingly, one of the reasons for poor indoor air quality is human behavior. This is why we desperately need strong and comprehensive indoor air quality policies and guidelines. These standards will help everyone, from the general public to industry experts, understand the simple yet crucial actions they can take to achieve good indoor air. These are some of the reasons that led me to found the Global Open Air Quality Standards Initiative, also known as GOAQS, GoAQS is a grassroots independent effort with the help of over 150 experts from academia, government, and industry. Across the world, we are working to align fragmented recommended standards into a single cohesive framework. We believe that this unified standard, developed with feedback from all the stakeholders, will be more effective and practical to implement. Our goal is not just to raise awareness, but also to foster cohesion and fairness for all. Every human being, regardless of where they were born or live, has a right to clean air. These common and open indoor air quality standards will help us create a clear path for all humanity to thrive indoors. Thank you.
Thank you, Sotirios, and thank you for your leadership on this topic. Next, I would like to invite Rachel Hodgdon, who is the president and CEO of the International Well Building Institute. Rachel.
Friends, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. These prescient words from Margaret Mead remind us of the profound power that comes from people uniting behind a common cause. Mead articulated what we all know in our bones, that when we come together with purpose, when we collaborate across boundaries, we can be the drivers of transformation. We can reshape markets. We can disrupt the status quo. And most importantly, we can change lives. It's that same ethos that drives our work at the International Well Building Institute, the leading organization advancing the global movement for healthier buildings, organizations, and communities. And it's why I'm so honored to be here today at this historic gathering at the United Nations during Climate Week to confront one of the most defining, yet too often overlooked challenges of our time, the quality of the air that we breathe indoors. For too long, the world has treated indoor air as invisible, secondary, or even an afterthought. And yet we spend 90% of our lives inside buildings. The quality of the air that we breathe in those spaces is directly tied to our health, to our ability to learn and to work, and to our collective resilience in the face of climate change. Poor indoor air is linked to heart disease, respiratory illness, asthma, allergies, diminished cognitive performance, and lost productivity. And the burden is not shared equally. We know that children, the elderly, and low-income communities bear the heaviest costs. But today marks a seismic moment, a turning point, a new era of recognition, coordination, and action. On this very day, we have proudly signed the Global Pledge for Healthy Indoor Air, a seminal rallying point that underscores our shared commitment and collective responsibility to make clean air indoors a universal right. And building on that momentum, it is my privilege to announce the launch of the Global Commission on Healthy Indoor Air, a first-of-its-kind high-level coalition of nearly 170 world-renowned experts, scientists, public health leaders, and industry pioneers in building design, real estate, manufacturing, and technology, representing nearly 35 countries. In short, this is the world's foremost alliance of global leaders united to advance healthy indoor air. We are proud that this group of distinguished commissioners has stepped up to do the hard work, inform decision makers, accelerate innovation, unlock new sources of funding, shape policy, and raise public awareness so that the health, economic, and societal benefits of healthy indoor air are recognized, prioritized, and realized at scale. By coming together to develop a global framework for action and support the creation of national blueprints, the Commission will draw attention to this urgent issue, build a steady drumbeat of awareness, and work to catalyze the policies, investments, and innovations that can ensure everyone, everywhere, has access to clean, healthy indoor air. Imagine a world where every school, workplace, hospital, church, and home lives up to that promise, where we can be assured that the air that we breathe is helping us to thrive, not making us sick. That world is possible. And together with the Commission's leadership, today's global call to action, and the collective will in this room, that world is within reach. If you'd like to get involved in the Global Commission for Healthy Indoor Air, please find me here or on LinkedIn. We'd love to have your involvement. And I'll close by saying that this is our moment. Let us seize it to protect our health, to unlock human potential, and to safeguard a healthy, sustainable future for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And what an opportunity with the Commission to bring together such a group of experts. We are excited for this to be a complementary effort with the pledge and help further national and organizational action across the globe. Next, I would like to welcome Peter Templeton, the President and CEO of the United States Green Building Council and the President and CEO of the Green Business Certification Incorporated. Peter.
Distinguished guests and colleagues, on behalf of the U.S. Green Building Council, our members, and our global community of industry professionals, I'm honored to participate in today's event and to be a signatory of the Global Pledge. Human health and well-being are core elements of USGBC's mission and of our definition of green building. For more than 30 years, we have worked with stakeholders from across the global building industry to promote actionable opportunities to improve indoor air quality through better design, construction, and operation practices. Thanks to the work of those organizations represented here today and many others, we've been able to leverage a growing body of scientific knowledge, technical innovation, and best practices to raise expectations of building owners and occupants while equipping building industry professionals with the skills and the tools to achieve them. Through this collective effort, real-world solutions and examples are now widely available for improving both building performance and health outcomes. The challenge at hand is scaling them to all buildings in all communities. Achieving market transformation at a global scale will require engaging new stakeholders and leveraging key market drivers. We see opportunities at hand for working with policymakers at all levels of government to position IAQ improvements in homes, in schools, and in workplaces as essential investments in public health infrastructure. For working with large-scale building owners, investors, and operators to implement strategies and track performance across entire portfolios. For working with financial institutions to address IAQ, along with energy efficiency, emissions reductions, and resilience within responsible lending frameworks. To support these efforts, our LEED Green Building Standards, which are used not only by project teams, but also by owners, lenders, and policymakers worldwide, have been updated to reinforce the importance of heightened IAQ performance. These updates include references to new ASHRAE standards, as well as to streamlined certification pathways and alignment with the WELL Building Standard. The USGBC Center for Green Schools has worked with Boston Public Schools and over 250 other school districts serving more than 9 million students to improve indoor air quality in classrooms and school facilities. And we're building on this experience to reach more districts across the U.S., especially in tribal and disadvantaged communities. We've also worked with large-scale owners to develop new tools for tracking and verifying portfolio-wide performance against target. And we will use the lessons collected from all of these experiences to advance IAQ education, dialogue, and action throughout our industry. I'm proud of our work driving this cross-pollination between sustainability and health, ensuring that every green building is a healthy building. USGBC welcomes the opportunity to continue collaborating with you, sharing knowledge, and utilizing our experience and reach to advance the goals of the Global Pledge. Once again, I'm deeply honored to speak with you today and look forward to working with all of you to create a better, healthier built environment for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for helping connect the very important buildings community as we think of health and sustainability as two achievable goals together. Finally, it is my pleasure to welcome Plum Stone, who is the founder and CEO of the Safer Air Project. Plum.
Thank you, Georgia. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests and friends, and to my kids online, good afternoon. I'm Plum Stone, and I'm here today because something as simple as breathing in shared indoor spaces has become a barrier to accessibility and inclusion for millions of people, and it's time to change that. At the start of the pandemic, my family were infected, my daughter was hospitalized, and I developed long COVID. My academic and professional background meant that I was immediately looking for the policy solutions. Knowing that 1 in 2 Australians, like my husband, lives with a chronic health condition with similar figures globally, I was acutely aware of the risks if we failed. When I learned that airborne pathogen transmission predominantly occurs indoors, in poorly ventilated spaces, I realized that shared indoor spaces now posed a significant risk to our health. The reality is, my family is not alone. Millions of people with chronic conditions are being put at risk or quietly excluded because clean indoor air has not been treated as a fundamental human right. If the act of breathing in a space makes someone sick, access isn't equitable. But we can change that today. I founded the Safer Air Project with a mission to get indoor air quality recognized as a critical accessibility and inclusion issue. From the beginning, our vision has been for everyone to be able to breathe safely indoors. And we welcome this global pledge as an important step towards that goal. We all breathe the same air, but not with the same consequences. For people with chronic health conditions and other risk factors, unsafe air means unsafe spaces. That's why we particularly welcome the pledge's recognition of accessibility and care for all as central to this global movement. We have the tools. What we need now is the collective will to act, to mandate indoor air quality performance standards that effectively reduce the risk of exposure to pathogens and pollutants, and to make real-time data visible for all, so accessible indoor air becomes the reality in all public spaces everywhere. So a huge thank you to the conveners today, and particularly for putting accessibility right at the heart of this global pledge. It means a huge amount, because everyone deserves to breathe safely indoors. Thank you very much.
Our dearest thank you. Thanks to you, Plum. We appreciate sharing that you shared your personal story and that you bring this all to have a true connection, that this is about humans and this is about health. So thank you for your advocacy and leadership. So please join me in thanking this wonderful panel, and we will finally welcome panel 4 on. Thank you very much.
In true UN style, several of our speakers are currently speaking in other rooms, and we hope that they will join us shortly. But we're going to roll with the punches, and I'm delighted to present to you our next speaker. So Anna Maria, I'm going to start with you, if I may. This is Anna Maria Arabia, who is the Chief Executive of the Australian Academy of Science.
Thank you, Bronwyn. It's a pleasure and honour to be here. It was New Year's Eve 2019 in Canberra, Australia. I woke to intense smoke seeping into my home. The Australian bushfires had burnt 18.6 million hectares, and smoke had travelled across oceans to New Zealand and as far as South America. In that moment, breathing smoky air in my kitchen and in my bedroom, in my home, it was clear how fundamental clean air is to our health and survival. There was nowhere safe for my family to breathe freely. If you cannot rely on the air that you breathe, what can you rely on? Clean indoor air should be a basic human right, but it is not yet. That's why the Australian Academy of Science is here, joining forces with Burnett Institute, Brown University, the Oslov Project, and 60 partners from around the world. The science of indoor air quality is well understood, and the solutions to address poor indoor air quality are available. In Australia, we have already taken up this call to many, to healthcare providers, trade unions, education specialists, and to the Prime Minister of Australia. We're on a mission to make clean indoor air a fundamental human right globally. Imagine it's 2035, just 10 years from now. Every new building monitors carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, PM2.5, and has ventilation rates of 14 litres per second per person. Because scientific evidence has informed action. Because we have enforceable indoor air performance standards in all public buildings. Natural and mechanical ventilation systems work in harmony. Air quality displays automatically, triggering optimal ventilation when needed. Existing buildings are retrofitted on a coordinated schedule, prioritising hospitals, schools, early childhood centres, aged care facilities and workplaces. Viral transmission has dropped significantly. Absenteeism has reached record lows. Fewer families receive that dreaded call about another respiratory illness suffered by a loved one. Electric transport has skyrocketed, slashing transport pollution. Developing countries have leapfrogged technologies, avoiding mistakes, and are now powered by renewable energy, not gas. The economic rewards are immense. In Australia alone, this would have delivered $20 billion annually in perpetuity in improved health and productivity. To achieve this reality, we brought together decision makers who rarely collaborate, educators, healthcare experts, architects, infectious disease specialists, engineers, economists, entrepreneurs, human rights advocates, and technology experts. Together, this is a vision we can achieve. Everyone in this room is an agent for change. Reach out to those who you do not traditionally work with. The multiplier effect is immense. Your voice matters in local and global initiatives like this one. Remember, the most important change is the hardest to make. Change will not happen overnight, but it will happen through your courage and your conviction. And never underestimate small steps. Just as access to clean water and food safety evolved gradually over decades, clean indoor air will follow the same path. Gradual, sometimes messy, but driven by your actions. Your individual and collective efforts aren't simply important, they are essential to giving every person the right to breathe clean indoor air. Thank you for making this vision a reality.
Thank you, Anna Maria. It's now an absolute delight to welcome Inga Anderson to the room. Inga is the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Director of the UN Environment Programme. Now, there's a lot of people here who are making their very first visit to the UN. And I just want to let you know that Inga would have been invited to hundreds and hundreds of events this week, and we are so immensely grateful to you for prioritising this one. It's a treat to have you here. The floor is yours.
No, thank you very much, and thank you for that very generous introduction. I'm just another humble indoor air warrior, and it matters a lot. And it matters for women, who often are those who are the closest to the cooking and the closest, therefore, to the inhaling of noxious fumes. It matters to us all. And I really want to thank you and the Government of Australia and the many, many sponsors of this event, too many to mention, for this leadership. Also, I want to thank the Tobacco-Free Portfolios, because this is an organization that is really pushing under the treaty to really deal with this. And tobacco is more than an indoor air issue, it's a pollution issue, it's obviously a plastic issue. It has many dimensions to it. But we know, and you will have been discussing, that clean air is critical. A breath in and a breath out. That's what we do all day without thinking, and we take that clean air for granted. But breathing dirty air indoors and outdoors now contributes to more premature deaths, and smoking, with chronic illnesses like asthma, also closely linked. 1 in 9 people in this good world are breathing in dirty air. So we have to address this. We absolutely have to address the direct causes of indoor air pollution, particularly, of course, in poorer countries where people rely on either kerosene or biomass for their cooking, heating, and lighting. And that is not a small challenge. 2 billion people globally lack access to clean cooking solutions, so they have no alternatives but to cook with very dirty, cooking fuel that provides dirty air. That's the only option. And so in sub-Saharan Africa alone, it's 960 million people who lack access. And that is why we're very proud to be one of the members of what we call Climate and Clean Air Coalition, that puts together the climate community and puts together the clean air community and says, look, this is one and the same. You cannot distinguish between these two, and when we solve one, we solve the other. At least we begin to, but they're certainly interconnected. And to accelerate e-cooking in Africa, which is so critical, having the privilege of living in Kenya, we see how this can change lives and change health. And so modern energy cooking services is obviously very critical. Thank you, UK, for being one of the sponsors of this. But on the aspect of smoking, aside from obviously the air pollution side, and the massive human health cost and family cost, etc., I want to speak to the environmental cost of the impact from the tobacco industry, because every year millions of hectares of forests are lost, either to tobacco growing or to producing the charcoal that will drive the tobacco. Both are linked, obviously, and that has, and so we are seeing, when we calculate all of that, is about 3 million transatlantic flights that we use on the tobacco industry. But 4.5 trillion cigarette butts laden with microplastics and chemicals discarded. And this is a real issue because it's in the gutters, and the rainwater comes along and it just soaks it all up, and out it goes into our lakes, into our rivers, into our oceans. This micro and nanoplastics do not disappear. It just becomes ever and ever and ever smaller fragments, releasing whatever toxins they may have carried, as well as the plastic itself. So that was on the indoor side, but don't forget the outdoors, because we work on the environment, and outdoor pollution is obviously very much a thing too. Outdoor pollution is growing from transport and industry and agriculture, and climate change-induced wildfires, which we are seeing ever more intense. Even in this city, we have seen it from the Canadian fires. So we have to deal with these pollutants, such as particulate matter, of course, and climate-relevant components such as black carbon, such as carbon monoxide, such as ground-level ozone, such as nitrous oxides and dioxides and sulfur dioxide. These are the real fuels of the climate crisis, as well as often the health crisis. And that means that we have to think about renewable energy. We have to think about sustainable transport, be it e-mobility, be it public transport, or hopefully all of the above, and two-wheelers, and strong air quality standards. And integrating air quality and climate action is part and parcel of the solution pathway. Currently, just under 1% of development finance goes to air pollution. Just put it out there. So this coalition and the work that this group of people are doing is extremely meaningful. We need this kind of collective action for collective impact with solutions that weave across sectors and bring together the elements that may not in the day-to-day be talking together, but here in this room and beyond are seeing the connections. And it has to, of course, be backed by finance. It has to, of course, be backed by investors thinking about where they invest so that we invest in clean and green and future-proof and healthy. This is an entirely solvable problem. Together we can address and direct resources to solve this problem, and then we can ensure that we let the right air into the room. Thank you.
It's a great delight to now welcome Violet Affleck. Violet is a youth advocate. She's the voice of Gen Z. She's a climate champion, and she's a clean indoor air advocate. Violet.
Thank you so much. Which way is the live stream camera?
I imagine it's straight down there.
Thank you. Okay. My mom is watching and my cousin is watching for her interior design class. She gets lead credit. Anyway, distinguished guests, thank you for having me. I feel so humbled to be here. I represent a generation that, in many ways, already knows how we've been failed. We are no strangers to protesting injustice. This summer alone has seen youth uprisings in Nepal, Angola, and Indonesia, to say nothing of ongoing youth mobilization worldwide for a free Palestine. And wherever we live, we've grown up in the shadow of the climate crisis with the threats, sacrifices, and scarcities that will entail looming over us. We know what that means for our lives, in no small part thanks to the people in this room. And we are told by leaders across the board that we are the future. But when it comes to the ongoing pandemic, our present is being stolen right in front of our eyes. For adults, the relentless beat of back to normal, ignoring, downplaying, and concealing both the prevalence of airborne transmission and the threat of long COVID, manifested in a series of choices. Young people lacked both real choice in the matter and information about what was being chosen for us. Here's what we know about SARS-CoV-2. It is airborne, floating and lingering in the air. One infection can result in disabling damage to almost every cell in the body, from the brain and heart to the nerves and blood vessels. Every subsequent infection increases the risk of long COVID and places people who already have it in greater danger. Here's what we don't know, is what it does to reinfect children over and over and over again with no endpoint in sight from the day they are born. We are about to find out. As Dr. Akiko Iwasaki says, at this point, the whole population is the control group, and after only 5 years, long COVID has surpassed asthma as the most common chronic illness in children. 5 years. I am terrified for the children who do not or soon will not know a world without debilitating pain and exhaustion, who cannot trust their bodies to play, explore, and imagine, and who will not know the potential of their own minds unfettered by the cognitive damage from a COVID-19 infection. And I am furious on their behalf. It is neglect of the highest order to look children in the eyes and say, we knew how to protect you, and we didn't do it. We have access to a technology to prevent airborne disease, something that millions of our ancestors and millions of people around the world today would kill for, and we refuse to use it. And I shudder to think of where we will be in another 5 years of unmitigated infection and reinfection. But let me say on the topic of generational memory that while I imagine no one in this room was alive in the time of Jon Snow or Ignaz Semmelweis, many of you fought the long and hard battle against indoor smoking. My only memory of that era, at almost 20 years old, is being confused as a child about the no smoking signs on planes. Who would do that? That's gross. My hope for this event and my belief in this community rest on the belief that we can and we must do that again. We can recognize filtered air as a human right as intuitively as we do filtered water. We can create clean air infrastructure that is so ubiquitous and so obviously necessary, tomorrow's children don't even know why we need it. We need the people who remember 2020, who were not like me, 14 in 2020, to be loud about the world that we were promised at the onset of the pandemic, one where we and our institutions promised each other that if we only got out of that desperate acute phase, we would do everything we could to protect our communities going forward. And we need the people who are born now, we owe it to the people who are born now that they take that world for granted. Thank you.
What a powerhouse. Thank you so much for your excellent comments, and thank you for lending your voice to this issue. We're very lucky to have you here, and it's just such a pleasure to welcome you to this panel. Our final speaker, who secretly made it to the panel, I'm just delighted that we were able to welcome Dr. Omnia El Omrani. Omnia is the Vice Chair of the Global Climate and Health Alliance. We're thrilled to hear from you.
Can you hear me? Yes, okay. And my sincere apologies for the delay, and thank you for still having me on this very important event. And distinguished guests and your excellencies, I'm very privileged to be speaking today and to be celebrating this turning point for healthy indoor air. And as a medical doctor myself and as a physician in Egypt, I saw every single day in my residency the air polluting the lungs of many children and young people, and saw the devastating impact it had on their lungs, but also on their neurological development, on basically their access to education and being able to play the sports that they want. They would come with asthma exacerbations, with lung infection, not just them, but then the days after, their brothers and their sisters and their family members, because of the very household and the air that they breathe indoor, but also the neighborhood which they are part of. And I see that pledge as imperative to address three injustices. The first one is, as we have heard, the intergenerational injustice because of the pollution, because of the fossil fuel driven pollution, and these particles are not just about the exposure, it's also about the lingering impacts it has both on respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular diseases, childhood cancers, premature death. It is the world that children and future generations do not deserve to inherit. And at the same time, there's also the social injustice because the communities, the marginalized populations, the racial minorities, indigenous communities, migrant workers who are living in the neighborhoods and households that have the worst level of air quality and being the least contributed to the issue. We also call this sacrifice zones because they are living in areas where corporations, where projects are polluting, and they are sacrificing by living amidst the most polluted areas for economic gains that they don't have any part in, and that's also part of the extractivism we're seeing. And I think the health inequity and the health injustice that we're seeing, but also the injustice between high and low middle income countries. 80% of the population who are exposed to air pollution are in low middle income countries. If we look at investments on clean air funding, people in low middle income countries are getting at least $2 versus high income countries that are getting $73 per person per year from clean air funding. So this is another injustice that this pledge will also be able to mobilize and bring in the equity, the justice at the heart of addressing indoor air pollution. And as part of the Global Climate and Health Alliance, which is an organization of over 200 organizations of healthcare professionals representing millions of professionals, medical doctors, nurses, and so on from from over 125 countries. We just launched our flagship report. It's called Cradle to Grave. And what it did this year was demonstrate the impacts directly of fossil fuel through pollution on the bodies, not only showing across the life course before birth up to what we're seeing right now on our bodies and our health, as well as our mental health. But at the same time, my call to action is following on the pledge is also for us to really think and look at the drivers of the pollution, the very industry, the fossil fuel industry, which until now is receiving subsidies in trillions. According to the IMF, in 2022, it received over $7 trillion US. Think about these subsidies if they are redirected to health protecting investments, to the fragile healthcare systems that are the first and the last line of defense against the impacts of climate change, against the impacts of pollution. We are asked as healthcare professionals, as healthcare facilities, to respond to the impacts with very little investments in building our capacity to do that. So having that redirection is so critical. Understanding and building the awareness at the community level and the public level to really foster the political feasibility of the recommendations, so that countries don't think that they are foregoing developmental gain, but they're actually investing in health and investing in the right to clean air and in the right to health, which is a fundamental, it's not an environmental concern. It is a moral imperative and duty for us, for our governments, to act on it. And that is why in our Common Air Commission, which is an independent commission chaired by Her Excellency Helen Clark and Soumya Shahar, we're working with leaders at the level of the G20, really trying to build a head of state commitment to clean air, to prioritize that for our communities, particularly the most affected. I think my last call to action, which is something I also feel passionately about, which is the polluters pay principle. And it's important for us to be able, as the broader community, articulate what are the costs of the respiratory illnesses, of the cardiovascular diseases, of the premature death that we're having. These costs are carried by the healthcare system and carried by our people, and not by the very corporations and companies that are not internalizing these costs. So we have to address that. And I think indoor air pollution and air pollution in general, it is a challenge for each of us and for our governments as well to take responsibility, to accelerate the necessary action that is needed, to understand our moral duty to do that, and finally to achieve intergenerational justice for our children to get the world that they deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of our panelists on panel 4. It's been such a treat to facilitate this panel, and one more round of applause, everybody, because that's the end of our speaking. Thank you.